What is going on, y'all? It's your boy Aero back at it with another video. So grab a snack, kick back, and let's dive in. For this week's video, I'm going a little more on the spooky side. This isn't my own story, it's one I found on r/let's not meet on Reddit. I know it's not my own, but it is spooky and that fits this time of year, so kick back and let's get into it. The red sweater. Something happened to me years ago, and I think about it quite often, and I admit that it still makes my blood run cold. When I was younger, around 10 years old, I was walking with my best friend, the same age as me, but we didn't have any adults with us. It was a small, not too busy road in a sort of subdivision that formed a loop with a few houses but mainly forest around. Important note, we had already taken a tour of the neighborhood. This was perhaps the second or third time we had done. We were walking quietly, and I hear the sound of an engine, but when I turn, I see a white van behind us, driving slowly. We tell ourselves that she wants to pass us, as the road is not very wide, so we move aside to let her pass next to us. She advances a few meters and stops. At that moment, my best friend and I don't notice each other too much and continue to move forward, knowing that the van is just ahead, stopped. And I don't know, at the time, I have a weird feeling that comes over me, and I grab my best friend's arm to make us stop. I don't know how long we stared at the van. It feels like it lasted a while, but it was a long time ago, so maybe it was only a few seconds. Suddenly, we saw the passenger side door open towards the forest. I pulled my best friend's arm so we could go in the other direction, and I don't really know why we started running. We ran for a while, and when we stopped, we started talking about what had just happened, and she was scared too. We sat in a park, and we started to relax a little, then laughed and told ourselves that we had panicked for nothing. After a while, maybe half an hour, we said to ourselves that we were going to go back, but we had to go back along the road where the van had stopped to go back. We weren't really reassured, but we told ourselves that everything was fine, so we turned back. When we arrived on the road, to our great relief, the van was no longer there, so we moved forward quietly to where she was, and that's when we noticed something, and oh my god, just writing it today still gives me chills. So on the forest edge side, we see something red, really maybe a meter from the road at most. We approach and we discover a little red sweater. It was knitted wool sweater, very bright red. I already found it it was small, so I'm sure it was child size. It looked like someone had tried to burn it because it was blackened in places, and there was a small empty plastic container next to it. I imagine maybe gasoline or something flammable. What is very strange is that I am sure that this sweater was not there during our first tour, because it was red like that. I think we would have seen it, and there was no dead leaves on it, although the ground was littered with them. We never told our parents about this, but even today I can't help but think that the people in that van didn't mean well to us, and I also can't help but think it was them who dropped off that red sweater and tried to burn it. Was my childhood eye biased and made me paranoid, or did I unknowingly escape something very serious? In that red sweater, what was it? Who was it? Why? Every time I think about it, it terrifies me. Nah, dude, yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah. That's a creepy story. I'm glad y'all made it home safe. But man, that's a questionable decision going back the same way you came, past where the van was. What were you thinking, dude? Nah, that's some scary movie, horror movie type shit there. That definitely sounds like some abductors or something. They were trying to get rid of the evidence there on the side of the road by burning the sweater. Nah, dude, y'all just stumbled across a crime scene, man. One of the comments under that thread said they should check to make sure that there weren't any open missing child cases from the time that the sweater appeared. Now, that's not a bad idea either. Definitely creepy, but I'd probably use some better judgment in the future, maybe go home a different way. Alright, y'all, this one's a little bit longer. I moved to East Los Angeles the summer after high school. My parents bought the house from my aunt and uncle who had just moved out. We already had family in that area, so it felt familiar. The neighborhood was nice and quiet. The plan for me was to live with my parents and save money while I figured out what I wanted next. I was getting ready to start community college and applied to a medical assistant program. Back then, everyone had an opinion about East LA. People loved to describe it as dangerous, even though most of them had never been there. I grew up visiting my cousins in that same area, and it was never as dramatic as people made it sound. These places are not scary to me. They are just neighborhoods where people live. I met Michael at my cousin's house party that summer. He had tattoos and looked edgy. When he asked me out, I said yes. I was flattered and curious about what he would be like. He told me he knew a place with the best guava nectar in town and that we could go to a drive-in movie afterward. I actually laughed. I like guava nectar, but I had never heard anyone hype it up like that before. But like I said, I was curious and I agreed. He parked at the drive-in first. He said we could leave the car there, walk to the restaurant, come back for the old movie. We even asked the employees if that was okay, and they said yes, as long as we paid a small fee, which he did. Something about the plan felt strange. The restaurant was about a 20-minute walk away, and the movie started at 9 p.m. and it was already close to 8. I asked him if it was smart to walk by ourselves so late, and he smiled and said he thought I was not afraid of neighborhoods like this since I had spent so much time in East LA. He said it was like a challenge. I remembered mentioning that earlier, and he used my own words to keep me from saying no, so I went along with it. Very few people were on the street and it was dark. As we got closer to the restaurant, he stopped a few times to show me videos on his phone. They were silly clips that he thought were funny. I was uneasy about the walk. It felt like Michael wanted it to last longer than it should have. Something was off. Looking back, I think Michael was stalling. Then a car pulled up beside us. A masked man got out and walked towards us. For a second I thought it could be a prank, like for a YouTube video. Then I heard his voice and he said, "I need your phone and wallet." I remember thinking he sounded young, maybe high school age. He also sounded nervous and all out of breath. I can't prove this, but I could tell this was not something he had done before. That was the only time I'd ever been mugged, and I don't know what other muggers sound like, but I just know that guy had never done it before. I think he was hesitating. At one point, I even remember the driver yelled, "Hurry up, man." He yelled back, "I am hurrying, bro, she's right here." He kept looking at Michael. Michael looked back. I could not see their faces, but something in that moment told me that they knew each other. He took my wallet and my phone, then ran back to the car and they drove away. Michael stood still. He didn't help, but to be fair, I don't know what he could have done. You never know what someone with a gun might do if you make the wrong move. I was in shock, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I told Michael we should go to the police. He kept insisting we should still get guava nectar so I could calm down. I had just been robbed and he was offering me juice. I had no phone and no way to call anyone, and somehow we were still walking to get guava nectar. We got guava nectar and then walked back. When we finally got to the car, I told him again that I wanted to go to the police. This time I said that if he refused, I would ask someone else in the parking lot to call. He finally said okay. At the station we gave our statements and it got even stranger. I said the car was gray because I knew what I saw. Michael said it was white. I said there had been a driver who yelled, "Hurry up, man." Michael said there was no driver, that it was the same person who got back into the driver's seat of the car and drove himself off. He kept adding little changes. The police officers were polite, but I could feel their patience thinning. When they realized we were giving them two different stories, one of them sighed. She said she could not really investigate if two people who were both there could not agree on what happened. I knew right then they were not going to investigate this any further. Michael drove me home. When my parents found out what had happened, they were furious. My mom told me never to talk to Michael again. She did not need to repeat herself. Thankfully, I did not lose much. My wallet was easy to replace, and I needed a new phone anyway. I have lived in East LA ever since that summer. 8 years later, I have never had another bad experience here. The more I think about that night, the more I am convinced that Michael planned it. I can still remember how he stalled to give them more time to come and mug me. I can still remember how calm he stayed through all of it. I can still remember how he tried to give the police completely different information from what had really happened. No way that was all an accident. Since then, I've seen Michael a few times at different things. He always wanted to make small talk and invite me to things. I kept my guard up and don't agree to anything. Yeah, dude, you gotta listen to your gut on that one. Michael definitely set you up, man. That's messed up. The stalling, the lack of fear, yeah, and 100% man was in on it. That's diabolical about him giving a whole separate story to the police. I know you gotta protect the homies, but man, you got your values all messed up to do something like that. Definitely good to trust your gut and maybe stay away from the guava nectar next time. Just stay at the movie. Before we get into what happened, I want to clarify for better understanding that our house once belonged to two families. Therefore, both the first and ground floors have separate kitchens and bathrooms. We also have a basement that is connected to the garage. but until 2018, my wife and I didn't really use the first floor kitchen, and we rarely used the bathroom either. Things changed when our son was born, and going downstairs simply became too tiring in the middle of the night, and that's where all the weird stuff started. It started with small things. We'd wake up in the morning and discover the door to the downstairs office was open, or something was lying where it shouldn't be. Sometimes that something was even chairs. We also started finding plates in the living room, cups in the bathroom, and so on. But hey, we were both tired, our son wouldn't sleep, the house was in total chaos, and we'd even had episodes of sleepwalking beforehand. So for a long time, we found excuses, assuming that one of us had gone downstairs in the middle of the night out of habit and simply don't remember it. Having 3 cats that you can blame helped too. Then my wife claimed several times that she'd wake up at night and hear strange sounds coming from downstairs. I've had similar experiences, but then again, 3 cats in one house. Then she claimed to see someone's hand downstairs as she passed the stairs, but once again we assumed she was still half asleep, / it was a shadow or something like that. What really got us worried was a hat, a red winter hat that we found in the downstairs bathroom between the bathtub and the washing machine. We had many visitors during this time. Everyone wanted to meet our son, but we couldn't recognize it anyway. Even after taking photo and sending it to family and friends, no one picked it up. I remember that night we spent a long time walking around the house, making sure that all the windows and doors were closed, but honestly, I feel like it still hasn't hit us that the situation could be serious. I have no idea if it was a denial, like stuff like this shouldn't happen to people like us, or just plain I'm too tired to care about this too. But then the best possible coincidence happened. My friend was replacing the cameras in her house. The old ones still worked, but the quality was worse and sometimes they would turn off, losing 5 to 30 minutes of recording. Initially, she planned to throw them away, but I ended up coming home with her old cameras. Honestly, bless her for giving them to me. After the first night with the cameras, we couldn't deny it any longer. We had to call the police. 3 people. 2 men and 1 woman entered our house through the basement around midnight and spent time on the ground floor. 1 man and woman looked young, maybe in their early 20s. He had many tattoos on both hands. She had long hair in a braid and wore a dress. She came with a large gym bag. The other men looked older, must have been around 40, and was tall and muscular. Let me put it this way, he alone could have knocked out both me and my wife. And while the other 2 were just hanging out in the house, this man went up to the first floor. Unfortunately, there weren't enough cameras, so I have no idea what he was doing, but the footage shows he didn't return to the 2nd floor until an hour later. What happened next? Mostly a lot of waiting. My brother and my wife's father lived with us for a while. We changed the locks in the entire house, just in case, and with the police we searched the entire basement. The basement is 2 small and almost empty rooms. There's 1 window, but only a cat could squeeze through it, and it's covered with grates, which finally led to the garage. And that's how my wife and I found out our garage was unlocked. To this day, we have no idea if one of us had left it unlocked or if these people had managed to open it. The police haven't confirmed anything, only that they found fingerprints all over the gate. But yes, they were coming and going through the garage the entire time, and we, not having a car or treating the garage more like a storage unit, didn't even notice. Basically, anyone could come and go in our house whenever they wanted. What happened next? Unfortunately, there was no perfect ending. Initially, the police were very involved, patrolling the area, updating us weekly on progress, suggesting that we seek lawyers and prepare for further action, etc., etc. But then we saw them less and less. All we learned was that this older man matched the appearance of the man who attacked the cashier at the gas station on the other side of town, but they didn't have a name. He wasn't in the police database. No one has heard anything about the other 2. Did anything strange happen after all this? Yes. One night we heard a loud bang outside. We called the police. Nothing was found. Do we still live here? Yes. But over the years, we've replaced all the doors and windows. The basement is completely locked at night. We have motion sensors and more cameras, and our 3 cats have been joined by a big dog. What about our cats in all this mess? Unfortunately, the cameras prove that these little traitors were surprisingly okay with the strangers in our home. And my wife and I, we try to keep it light now, but it was actually traumatic. We both went through a lot of what-if scenarios, thinking about all the situations in which we could accidentally go downstairs and meet these people. For a long time, my wife was afraid to go down to the basement alone. Honestly, me too. The fact we had a small child only added to the guilt, but it's better now. Jeez, dude, that's an insane story. Thank goodness for those cameras, but oh my gosh, dude. Crazy that the police didn't have this guy in the database. Seems like they must have been pretty good at this, doing it pretty frequently, in my opinion. Sounds like you and your wife are very lucky that they didn't bother you at all during the night, or mess with you, or even worse, you know? I wonder if they were squatters, like just finding some place to be during the night and then leaving before you got up in the morning. But even then, they must have scoped out the place and seen your habits before deciding to come in and knowing when to leave. That's just creepy, man. Damn. Glad y'all are okay. Anyway, that'll do it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, remember to press the like button and comment a story of your own from this week that stuck out to you. And subscribe to the channel. We're out here posting every week. If you want to listen without the video or while you're doing chores or driving to work, these stories go up on Spotify under Story Snaps with Arrow. The comment of the day goes to TK Webster. Moral of the story, always register any property changes with the town and be nice to surveyors. Thank you for the comment on my video, He Called the Cops on Us. I appreciate that support. I shout out the comments in every video. I shout out a comment in each video as long as there's new comments to shout out, so make sure to get down there and get yourself a shout out in next week's video. Remember guys, life is a story and you are the author. We'll catch y'all later.